Have you ever achieved everything you thought you wanted, only to feel a strange emptiness inside? That hollow sensation that creeps in even as everyone around you celebrates your success. You did everything right, the career, the relationships, the status, yet something essential feels missing, something you can't quite name. What if I told you that the parts of yourself you've been desperately hiding away, the darkness you pretend doesn't exist, are actually the missing key to discovering your true purpose? There's a hidden force operating in your psyche right now, shaping your decisions, sabotaging your relationships, and keeping you from the life you're meant to live. This force doesn't announce itself. It works in the shadows of your mind, pulling strings you don't even realize are attached to your choices. And until you confront it, you'll continue feeling that nagging sense that you're somehow living the wrong life. That disconnect between who you present to the world and who you truly are will only grow wider, more painful, more confusing. This isn't about positive thinking. It's not about setting better goals or developing new habits. It's about something far more fundamental, something that most people will go their entire lives without discovering. The truth is, the shadow that follows you, those repressed desires, emotions, and instincts you've buried deep within your unconscious mind, isn't your enemy. It's the doorway to your most authentic self, and learning to step through that doorway might be the single most important psychological journey you'll ever undertake. You've felt it, haven't you? That sense of playing a role rather than living authentically. The exhaustion that comes from maintaining a carefully curated version of yourself that feels increasingly hollow with each passing day. That voice inside whispering, "This isn't really me," even as you smile and perform the part everyone expects. This performance, this constant filtering of your true thoughts, emotions, and desires, demands an enormous amount of psychological energy that should be flowing toward your creative expression, your relationships, your purpose. Instead, it's consumed by the exhausting work of keeping certain parts of yourself hidden away, even from yourself. And no matter how hard you try to change, to grow, to evolve beyond your limitations, you keep falling into the same patterns, the same relationship dynamics, the same career frustrations, the same emotional reactions that leave you thinking, "Why did I do that again?" These aren't random coincidences or character flaws. They're symptoms of something deeper. What you're experiencing is the manifestation of a fragmented self, a psyche divided against itself. One part of you conscious and controlled, the other unconscious and chaotic. One part accepted and expressed, the other rejected and repressed. This internal division creates a constant state of psychological tension that manifests in every area of your life. This division isn't just uncomfortable, it's actively preventing you from discovering and living your authentic purpose. Because purpose doesn't emerge from the carefully constructed persona you present to the world, it emerges from the totality of who you are, including those aspects you've deemed unacceptable. The more energy you expend maintaining this division, the less available you are for genuine connection, creative expression, and meaningful contribution. Your potential remains locked away alongside those disowned parts of yourself, waiting to be reclaimed and integrated. I'm talking about a concept the great psychologist Carl Jung called the shadow, the hidden repository of everything you've denied about yourself. Jung discovered that when you reject certain aspects of your personality, when you decide, "I'm not an angry person," or "I would never be jealous," those qualities don't simply vanish. Instead, they're pushed beneath the surface of your conscious awareness into what Jung called the shadow. But here's the crucial insight that changes everything. When denied, these aspects don't weaken, they strengthen. The more you deny these aspects, the more power they gain. What you resist persists, and not just persists but grows in intensity and influence. That sudden rage that seems to come from nowhere when someone makes a minor comment, shadow. That inexplicable attraction to people who are wrong for you, shadow. That self-sabotage just when things are going well in your career, shadow again. These aren't random character flaws or weaknesses. They're messages from your disowned self, demanding to be acknowledged. This pattern extends beyond your internal experience. Jung recognized that we tend to project our shadow qualities onto others, seeing in them precisely what we refuse to see in ourselves. That person whose arrogance infuriates you, they're reflecting the confidence you've disowned. That friend whose neediness exhausts you, they're mirroring the vulnerability you've rejected in yourself. This projection mechanism creates a double blindness. Not only are you unaware of these aspects within yourself, but you misperceive them in others. This distortion affects every relationship in your life, from intimate partnerships to casual interactions. The psychological cost of maintaining this division grows steeper over time. The energy required to keep parts of yourself in shadow increases. The gap between your conscious identity and your whole self widens. The patterns of self-sabotage become more entrenched and confusing. And perhaps most significantly, your authentic purpose, which emerges from the integration of all aspects of yourself, remains obscured, buried beneath layers of denial and projection. Your greatest gifts often lie precisely in those shadow qualities you've been taught to reject. Most personal development approaches get this fundamentally wrong. They encourage you to focus exclusively on positive traits, to visualize only positive outcomes, to become only your best self. Cut out negativity, banish doubt, eliminate fear. Just think positive, and everything will transform. But this approach isn't just incomplete, it's psychologically damaging. It creates an artificial division in your psyche, labeling certain aspects as acceptable and others as unacceptable. It trains you to sever your connection to whole regions of your emotional experience, and ironically, it strengthens your shadow by pushing more and more of yourself into that hidden realm. Jung understood something far deeper, that true wholeness, true individuation, can only come from embracing both the light and the dark within you. Not just the socially acceptable emotions, but the full spectrum of human experience. Not just your virtues, but your vices. Not just your strengths, but your weaknesses. This isn't about indulging destructive impulses. It's about acknowledging they exist rather than pretending they don't. It's about bringing unconscious material into consciousness, where it can be integrated rather than allowing it to operate in the shadows, beyond your awareness and control. Your darkness isn't something to be eliminated. It's something to be illuminated. Those aspects of yourself you call negative contain essential energy, wisdom, and power. Your anger carries your boundary-setting capacity. Your grief holds your ability to love deeply. Your fear contains your intuition about danger. Your selfishness protects your legitimate needs. What might be possible if instead of trying to banish these aspects of yourself, you learn to understand them? What might emerge if instead of dividing yourself into good and bad parts, you approached yourself with curiosity and compassion? What doorways to authentic purpose might open if you stop trying to be only half of who you truly are? The shadow isn't some abstract concept. It's the warehouse of everything you've deemed unacceptable about yourself. It's where your childhood conditioning taught you to hide parts of your authentic nature because they weren't welcomed by your parents, your teachers, your culture. Every time you were told good girls don't get angry or real men don't cry, you learned to push those genuine emotions into shadow. Every time you were punished for being too loud, too quiet, too bold, too cautious, you received the message: this part of me isn't acceptable, hide it away. This process begins in childhood, but continues throughout life. Pause. Your shadow grows with each judgment, each rejection, each moment you say to yourself, I shouldn't feel this way, or I shouldn't want this thing. Your messy emotions, your inconvenient desires, your unacceptable thoughts all get locked away, not gone, just hidden from your conscious mind. But here's what Jung discovered that changes everything. Your shadow contains not just your weaknesses, but some of your greatest strengths. Not just your darkness, but your most powerful light. Jung called the process of reclaiming these lost parts individuation, the psychological journey of becoming your complete, authentic self. Unlike many psychological theories that aim merely at adjustment to social norms, individuation is about becoming whole, not merely normal. It's about integrating all aspects of your psyche into a coherent, authentic being. Think about it. If you've rejected your anger, you've also rejected your capacity for healthy boundaries. If you've disowned your ambition, you've also cut yourself off from your drive to create meaningful change. If you've buried your sensuality, you've also lost touch with your capacity for joy and pleasure. The shadow doesn't just contain your darkest impulses, it contains the exiled parts of your authentic self. And until you reclaim those parts, you'll never access your full power or discover your true purpose. This is the revolutionary insight at the heart of Jung's psychology. What we call shadows are often our brightest lights that frightened others. Your most powerful gifts may be hiding in the very aspects of yourself you've been taught to reject. Your deepest purpose may be encoded in the very qualities you've learned to suppress. Individuation. This journey of shadow integration isn't a luxury or a self-indulgent pursuit. It's the essential psychological work that allows you to stop living a half-life and step into the fullness of who you truly are. It's the foundation upon which authentic purpose is built. Now, here's where things get truly transformative, and why shadow work is so fundamentally connected to discovering your life purpose. Jung believed that your life's purpose isn't something external you need to find out there. It's not a perfect career, a specific achievement, or even a particular contribution to society. Your purpose is already within you, encoded in your psyche, including, perhaps especially, in those shadow aspects you've been avoiding. This insight turns the conventional understanding of purpose completely upside down. While you've been searching for meaning in external accomplishments and social recognition, your deepest purpose has been waiting in the very places you've been taught not to look. In your wounds, your struggles, your rejected qualities, and yes, your shadow. Your purpose isn't about what you do. It's about becoming whole, about bringing all aspects of yourself into consciousness and expression. It's about the unique way in which you integrate your particular combination of qualities, light and dark, conscious and unconscious, into an authentic life. As long as your psyche remains fragmented, divided into acceptable and unacceptable parts, you'll be driven by unconscious forces rather than conscious choice. Your decisions about career, relationships, and personal growth will be reactions to unacknowledged shadow material, rather than expressions of your authentic self. You'll continue choosing paths that don't truly fulfill you, because your internal compass is calibrated to avoid shadow material, rather than to express your whole truth. Consider how this plays out. The person who rejects their ambition becomes trapped in unfulfilling work, never accessing the drive that would propel them toward meaningful contribution. The person who disowns their sensitivity adopts a hardened exterior, missing the empathic connections that would bring depth to their relationships. The person who denies their creativity conforms to conventional paths, never experiencing the unique expression that would bring them alive. These aren't just psychological curiosities, they're existential tragedies. Imagine the energy that becomes available when you no longer need to suppress these disowned aspects of yourself. Imagine the clarity that emerges when you're no longer projecting your shadow onto others. Imagine the authentic purpose that reveals itself when you're operating from wholeness rather than fragmentation. This integration doesn't just transform your inner experience, it transforms every aspect of your external life. Your work becomes an expression of your whole self, rather than just your acceptable parts. Your relationships become spaces of authentic connection, rather than projection screens for your shadow. Your creative expression carries the depth and power of your integrated psyche. The transformation potential here is nothing short of revolutionary. We're not talking about incremental improvement or minor course corrections. We're talking about a fundamental shift in how you experience yourself and your place in the world. We're talking about the difference between a life driven by unconscious forces and a life shaped by conscious integration, between a purpose imposed from outside and a purpose that emerges organically from your whole self. This is what awaits on the other side of shadow work. Not just psychological healing, but existential alignment. Not just self-acceptance, but self-actualization. Not just the absence of inner conflict, but the presence of authentic purpose. I want to pause here for a moment and check in with you. If what I'm sharing resonates with something deep inside you, if you've recognized yourself in this description of the divided psyche and felt that hunger for wholeness, then I invite you to take a moment with me now. If this content is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. In the second half of our journey together, I'm going to share specific techniques for shadow integration, practical methods you can begin implementing today to start reclaiming those disowned aspects of yourself and discovering your authentic purpose. The path to wholeness is both profound and practical, and what comes next will give you the tools to take your first steps. So how do you begin this process of shadow integration? How do you start making the unconscious conscious in a practical, accessible way? Let me share 4 powerful shadow work techniques you can begin implementing today. The first technique is trigger identification. Those moments when you feel a disproportionate emotional reaction, anger, fear, disgust, envy, are doorways to your shadow. When someone's behavior bothers you intensely, pause and ask yourself, what disowned part of myself am I seeing reflected back to me? Your triggers aren't random, they're precise mirrors of your shadow material. That person whose arrogance infuriates you, look for where you've rejected your own confidence. That friend whose neediness exhausts you, examine where you've disowned your own vulnerability. The emotions that feel most overwhelming are signposts pointing directly to your shadow. The second approach is pattern examination. Look at the recurring themes in your life, particularly those that cause suffering. Do you consistently choose partners who are emotionally unavailable? Perhaps you've disowned your own independence. Do you sabotage yourself when success is within reach? You might have rejected your own power. Do you avoid conflict at all costs, only to explode later? You may have pushed your healthy assertiveness into shadow. These patterns aren't failures, they're feedback, revealing the exact shadow material that's seeking integration. Dream analysis offers another powerful gateway. Your dreams speak in the language of symbols, often revealing shadow aspects your conscious mind avoids during waking hours. Pay special attention to the characters in your dreams that disturb or frighten you. They often represent disowned parts of yourself seeking recognition. Keep a dream journal by your bed and record your dreams immediately upon waking, before your conscious mind begins censoring. Look for recurring symbols, emotions, and scenarios. These are messages from your shadow. Journaling is perhaps the most accessible shadow work practice. Set aside 20 minutes of uninterrupted time and write freely, without censorship or judgment. Ask yourself, what parts of myself do I hide from others? What qualities do I judge most harshly in other people? What emotions feel dangerous to express? What desires feel shameful to acknowledge? The answers that make you uncomfortable are usually pointing toward shadow material. For deeper exploration, consider working with a therapist trained in Darkpsychology or Jungian analysis. Professional guidance becomes particularly valuable when dealing with significant trauma or when shadow material feels too overwhelming to approach alone. A skilled therapist creates a safe container for this exploration and provides objective perspective on your blind spots. The key to all these approaches is consistency and compassion. Shadow work isn't about perfect technique, it's about regular engagement with genuine curiosity. Start with just 10 minutes daily, approaching yourself not as a problem to be fixed, but as a mystery to be understood with patience and care. Now, I need to acknowledge something important. This work isn't easy, but it's essential. As you begin to shine light on your shadow, you'll encounter resistance. This resistance isn't a sign you're doing something wrong. It's evidence you're getting close to important material. You'll find yourself making excuses, changing the subject, becoming unusually tired or distracted when approaching certain. You might suddenly remember urgent tasks that need immediate attention. You might dismiss these practices as too simple or not relevant to your specific situation. These reactions aren't random. They're your psyche's protective mechanisms activating to maintain the status quo. Fear will arise, fear of what you'll discover, fear of how it might change you, fear of what others would think if they knew these parts of you existed. This fear is natural and universal. Every person who's undertaken meaningful shadow work has faced this fear. You're not alone in this experience. You may encounter shame as you acknowledge aspects of yourself you've long denied. Cultures and families often instill deep shame around certain emotions and desires. Remember, these qualities became shadow material precisely because you were taught they were unacceptable. The shame isn't inherent to the qualities themselves. It's a learned response that can be unlearned. A crucial distinction: integrating your shadow doesn't mean indiscriminately acting on every impulse or desire. Integration means acknowledging these aspects exist within you, understanding their origin and purpose, and bringing them into conscious relationship with the rest of your psyche. It's not about letting your shadow run wild. It's about no longer letting it control you from the darkness of unconsciousness. When resistance feels strongest, when emotions feel most overwhelming, when shame arises most intensely, these moments aren't obstacles to the process. They are the process. These uncomfortable experiences are the exact pathway through which integration occurs. The feelings you most want to avoid are often the doorways to your greatest transformation. Your resistance itself contains wisdom. Listen to it with curiosity rather than judgment. It's trying to protect you, albeit in ways that may no longer serve your wholeness. And this is where the true transformation begins. Because when you stop expending enormous psychological energy keeping these parts of yourself repressed, that energy becomes available for creation, for authentic expression, for meaningful action aligned with your deeper purpose. The choice to integrate your shadow is entirely yours. No one can undertake this journey for you. No technique or practice works without your conscious decision to engage with these disowned aspects of yourself. This work cannot be delegated or outsourced. It must be embraced personally, intentionally, courageously. But within this responsibility lies profound power. You alone hold the key to your wholeness. You alone can reclaim the parts of yourself that have been exiled into shadow. You alone can transform the unconscious forces that have been shaping your life into conscious choices that express your authentic self. Imagine the freedom that awaits when you're no longer driven by unconscious forces but guided by integrated awareness. Imagine the clarity that emerges when you can distinguish between projection and perception. Imagine the energy released when you no longer need to maintain the internal walls between acceptable and unacceptable parts of yourself. The fragmented self lives in constant internal tension, one part fighting against another, conscious mind rejecting unconscious material, persona battling shadow. This state drains your vitality and distorts your perception. The integrated self, by contrast, channels all this previously divided energy in a single direction. Integration doesn't mean perfection. It means coherence, alignment, wholeness. You already possess everything needed to begin this journey. Your triggers, your patterns, your dreams, your journal. These aren't just problems to solve, but pathways to integration. Each moment of awareness, each act of acknowledgement, each step toward acceptance moves you closer to the whole, authentic self that is your birthright. The door to this transformation stands before you now. Not someday, not when you feel ready, not when circumstances are perfect. Now, think about how your life would transform as you continue this journey of integration. The freedom of no longer being driven by unconscious forces, the relief of no longer needing to maintain a perfect facade, the power that comes from channeling your energy toward creation rather than repression. Right now, you might move through life with a subtle but persistent sense of division, part of you present in your relationships, part of you hidden, part of you expressed in your work, part of you suppressed. Like viewing the world through a partially fogged lens, never seeing the complete picture of yourself or others. As integration progresses, this fog begins to clear. You recognize when you're projecting your shadow onto others, catching yourself in the moment rather than days or weeks later. This isn't about them, you realize. This is about the part of myself I haven't acknowledged. This awareness transforms your relationships from projection screens into authentic connections. You see others more clearly, because you see yourself more clearly. Your work evolves from obligation to expression. Those shadow qualities you've reclaimed, perhaps your ambition, your creativity, your voice, find their way into your career, transforming not necessarily what you do, but how you do it. The executive who integrates vulnerability becomes a more effective leader. The artist who acknowledges their drive gains the confidence to share their work. The caregiver who reclaims their boundaries serves others without depleting themselves. This isn't about achieving a perfect life free from all challenges. It's about living an authentic life that embraces both light and shadow, strength and vulnerability, certainty and doubt. It's about responding to life's inevitable difficulties with your whole self rather than your fragmented self. The integrated psyche experiences the full spectrum of human emotion, joy and sorrow, love and anger, confidence and fear, but these emotions flow through you rather than controlling you. You feel more deeply, yet are less overwhelmed by what you feel. This is what Jung meant by individuation, not becoming some idealized version of yourself, but becoming your whole unique self. And in this wholeness, your authentic purpose naturally emerges. Not as something you find, but as something you uncover through the journey of integration. Your purpose becomes the unique expression of your particular wholeness in the world. So where do you start? Right now, today. Begin with this simple 7-day trigger journaling.